to take a little bit of time for this one because I mean there was a lot of things that I could have said, that I would have said and might have said that would have ended up rubbing people the wrong way. Not that I'm afraid of doing that, but doing it in such a way that it's inappropriate. So I wanted to start there. Colombia, Brazil. Oh man. If you don't mind, ladies and gentlemen, let me take it from a chronological standpoint. So it ends up being something that we raise ourselves into or grow ourselves into. Colombia obviously played a wonderful first half, tremendous as far as defense, a collective, that if you start to see a team that when they start to play together and the sum of the parts ends up being more than the individual capabilities, although we saw that the individual capabilities also do a great deal in terms of Colombia getting the lead with that cross by Cuadrado and a sincere, I mean, probably the best goal of the tournament up to now in Luis Diaz and his goal. I mean, it was just amazing to see how he was able to do that. But it was the defensive work that made things happen. Didn't allow Brazil in certain sectors to be able to get the ball comfortably, to be able to transit the ball in certain sectors, to be able to get into that final third, even final quarter of the pitch in a very comfortable manner. Neymar wasn't being able to fall into certain areas and create associations with Richarlison, with Everton Ribeiro as well. It ends up being one of the problems for Brazil throughout the first half. Little in terms of opportunities that they were able to create in that first half, but again, give credit to the Colombian defense from the first 45 minutes. Not much Brazil could do, not much that Brazil actually did. But as the second half rolled along, if there's one thing that Brazil does do, they're a team that can either blow you out of the water or they can grind you down. And today it was a bit of the latter. When you start looking at the second half, you start to see a Colombia that already started to suffer in terms of the physical aspect. A Colombia that had to be able to have better endurance and more stamina, but they didn't have it. I mean, the effort that they put in that first half was important, and it ended up paying a price as the second half wore on. Yes, they were still able to keep their order. They were still able to keep their tactical awareness in terms of what they needed to do in certain sectors. You didn't see as much from Santos Borré. He was dropping back and helping out the defense and not allowing the ball to be able to be played in front of the midfield. But then there were also instances we saw Wilmar Barrios lose his back at times, but the defense was able to kind of compensate those aspects of play. But again, as I mentioned, Brazil, they continue to press and push and push and push, and it's not going to help much on your case if you end up giving them the ball and allowing them to come wave after wave after wave after wave and continue to find opportunities down the wings or maybe down the middle or try and take a shot from outside. It's quite a bit. It's quite a bit to have to endure, and you know, from that perspective, yeah, you have to look at Colombia and say, what were you doing? Why weren't you able to hold the ball more? Why weren't you able to try and counter a bit more or try and play a little bit higher up, engage a little higher? But again, when you start saying that, at the same time, you have to keep in mind that this was a team that looked exhausted. There's some players that are completely exhausted. Case in point, Juan Guillermo Cuadrado is completely fried. He has no more to give. He has very little to give in terms of what is left of this tournament. Who knows how much longer Colombia will be going, but he won't be playing in the quarterfinals as he ends up getting a yellow card and he'll end up missing out on that. So when you look at it from that perspective, it ends up being a very complicated uphill climb for Colombia. And they didn't do themselves many favors as the match went on. I'll just be nice in terms of that. Okay, now let's get to the point where Brazil continued to press and they're not being able to score. Neymar hits one off the post and Colombia just continues to soldier on. But you knew that goal eventually would come, or at least it seemed that way because of the way that every time Colombia pressed, Colombia would end up dropping back and dropping back and dropping back and allowing Brazil more opportunities. Of course, then comes the controversial bit, and of course I have the rule right here in front of me. I think it was Neymar setting the ball in, boom, hits off a referee, Nestor Pitana. And of course the ball bounces, ricochets out wide and goes, of course, over to Brazil's left. The ball gets crossed in, header, goal. Now, this was probably one of the biggest refereeing gaffes I've probably seen in the last few years. Now, keep in mind that there was a rule change. Everyone knows the rule change by now because we've seen it in play. First of all, Nestor Pitana should not even be there. He should not even be in that sector. Okay, this has nothing to do on Brazil. This is pretty much at the referees. We're talking about the referee right now. Nestor Pitana should be there. Now, if you watch him referee in the Argentine league, he tends to do that a lot. He tends to be sometimes a little bit too on top of the ball. And the ball ends up hitting him quite often. And that's pretty much how he referees. But in this situation, what he does, he goes and puts the whistle in his mouth as to stop it, because what should have happened there, according to the rules, is for play to stop, ball to ground, Brazil maintains possession. Okay. He puts his whistle in his mouth. The Colombian players see him. Oh, let's stop. Now, you are taught as a player to play to the whistle, right? Well, Colombia doesn't do that. In that part, you can blame them, but of course, knowing the rule, you're like, okay, fine, he's going to blow the whistle. It doesn't. Everyone's faked out. That half a second that they have is good enough for Brazil to get the ball, cross it in, and score the goal. Okay? People will say, well, but it bounced off of Pitana and Brazil maintained possession. Yes. But in the rules, the ball cannot stay in play. The ball can't be in play when it's crossed the play, the byline or the sideline, or it's completely gone off the pitch. If play was already stopped by the referee, if the ball touches a member of the refereeing crew and maintains itself in the area of play, and also one of the teams can create a promising attack, or the ball ends up indirectly in the goal, or the team in possession ends up changing. In other words, the possession of the ball ends up changing. Let's say in that position, if the ball hits Pitana and it ends up going to Colombia, starts to break, it ends up going drop ball. But one of them, of course, the team ends up initiating a promising attack. That's what happened with Brazil. Off the ricochet, boom, the ball goes down the left. They start an attack down the left-hand side. Now, are we blaming Nestor Pitana for that? Yeah, you do, but not 100%. Now, Colombia also had to defend. David Ospina also had to be able to get in front of that ball and save it. Of course, it wouldn't be a topic of conversation if that would have happened. I'm not angry because of that. I mean, I'm upset because it was refereed poorly. Yeah. My reaction ends up being that Colombia just loses their head. Colombia loses their head once again. Colombia loses their head and they end up respecting a rival a little too much. That's where my problem is. Colombia ends up respecting a team and they end up having a lot to do with this particular play. Just as much as the referee, just as much as Brazil. Brazil, the referee says keep going. Fine. If I were Brazil, I'd keep playing too. We all would. Let's be honest. What's worse, it's not that. It's, of course, he goes to VAR and VAR backs him. When everyone's saying, hey, that ball hit the referee, regardless of what ends up happening, the ball should be, drop ball and Brazil maintains possession. Didn't happen that way. Of course, people were just puzzled. I mean, you see people on social media, they're puzzled. Even the commentators that I was listening to from DirecTV Sports, they're talking about the same thing. And that's one of the big things that ends up happening in these types of issues. That's and to add, and to make things even worse, when Pitana puts the ball in the middle of the pitch, he couldn't restart. So, I mean, his authority was completely thwarted because of it, because he knew he was wrong. He wasn't able to restart again. He had a lot of issues just trying to justify that. And finally, okay, play resumes. It's 1-1, 100th minute. This is where I get mad. And I put a couple of screenshots of what occurred on my Twitter account. How can you have, in the 100th minute of play, a 2v4 inside your own area, near the 6, 2 Brazilian players, 4 Colombians defending, and that 2v4 inside the 6 becomes a 2v1, and all of a sudden Casemiro's all by himself? At first I thought it was Mateus Uribe, but it could have been a whole host of players, and him included. And it was just completely puzzling. It's completely mind-blowing to see a match go this way. And again, you need to have a stronger mentality. You need to have a better way of handling things. You need to look at things from a different perspective and not respect Brazil so much. Come out and punch them in the mouth, which you did. But as time went by, well, let's drop back and hold on. So again, it's disappointing. Yeah, you can give them the 45 minutes. Yes, absolutely, give them 45 minutes. And it's something that really is embarrassing. Is embarrassing the way it ended. I mean, a lot of things. And when I say embarrassing, it's not just embarrassing Colombia. It's embarrassing the refereeing. It's embarrassing how things were handled. It's embarrassing VAR. Brazil did what they had to do. And Brazil did what they always do. Like I usually say, I don't say it as eloquently and elegantly as maybe some people want to. Hey, good teams, championship-winning teams, know how to pull a win out of their hat and know how to pull a win out of their ass. And today they did that. They absolutely did it, and that's what you do when you're a winner. You find a way to win. Sometimes you look good, sometimes you look brilliant, sometimes you'll look absolutely horrid, and you can't figure out how you did it, but you did it, and that's what winning teams do. And that's, at the end of the day, what Brazil is. And that's why Brazil is the best team in the region. And that's why Brazil is the only team in this part of the world that could probably compete against any of the teams in Europe. And that's why Brazil is the only team in this part of the world that could probably go and win the World Cup. Will they? I don't know. That's not a question I can ask or I can answer. But they have a good shot. I don't know if they will. They probably might not. But if you can say which team would be able to win the world, hands down Brazil, because no one else is going to, or no one else is going to even come close to getting into that conversation at this stage in 2021.